Right with him. Ingram makes a quick decision. Drives Dort. Banging. Goes back out. McCollum looking for Ingram. Ingram posting up. Turns. Fires. Shot no good. For one if they could. Gilgeous-Alexander drives. Gets inside. The floater is gone. Oh, what a shot from Gilgeous-Alexander. And the Thunder back up by one.
Came in here expecting to win.
And clutch free throws again. 2.1 remaining, 5-point game. And the crowd obviously disappointed. We'll do it. Overachieving Thunder team will play another day.
All right, well, we're going to take a break from our normal Oklahoma Sooner talk, bring in our buddy Zack Low, talk about some Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder advance in the play-in tournament, one game away now from making it into the actual NBA playoffs for the first time in, 3 years, Zach? 3 years? Does it feel longer than that? 4 years?
We went 2 years, 2-year drought, and it definitely feels longer than.
I mean, it feels like an eternity, doesn't it?
For Thunder fans, it absolutely does.
Yeah, 123-118, Oklahoma City on the road against New Orleans. A couple quick notes here. SGA, 25 of his 32 points came in the second half. Knowing what you know about the game now, you can kind of say this with a sense of relaxation, but were you worried at the half? Kind of have a low second quarter, SGA just not feeling it with the way that New Orleans is playing defense. He goes more into a distributing role, but you got to have this guy scoring to advance. What was your worry level like going into the break on Wednesday night?
It was a really weird mixture of part of me was concerned and part of me wasn't. LeGuent's Dort was having an absolute incredible shooting first half, which you love to see that, but at the same time, that's unexpected. So to have a guy shoot so much better than he has really all season long and to still be down, that's concerning.
Right.
But then when you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he had 7 points, season low first half for him. That's the lowest he's scored in the first half all season long. When I see that and I see the way the game's kind of going, I just had a feeling he was going to have to do something, obviously, in order to turn the game around. And, I really felt like New Orleans, they were allowed to get away with a lot of off-ball contact on him. If you go back and watch, just focus on him, he got roughed up a lot. And I was hoping at some point the officials would get more involved. He did end up with 8 free throws, which all came in the second half, and some of those were kind of late. Kind of felt like you definitely could have had more than that, but at the same time, I understand it's playoff basketball. You just have to be ready what they throw at you, and being the youngest team in the NBA, Mark Daigneault, he's kind of made some tongue-in-cheek comments before about how the Thunder get officiated differently because they're so young, and I understand the whole aspect of you have to earn the respect of the league, earn the respect of the officials, and so with that in mind, he's the kind of guy, Shai is the kind of guy that he's going to find a way to make himself a part of the game. And as soon as he came out and started hitting shots, I was like, okay, here we go. Now we're getting back to normal. And I kind of started to settle a little bit, at least for that short time period.
2 crucial shots, in my opinion, right there at the beginning of the third quarter, just kind of push at ease with him. One was a 3-point, one was mid-range. You just kind of okay, all right, now this is what we need. You mentioned the physicality, and I'm actually going to come back to that here in just a little bit. But let's talk about the play-in tournament just in general to this point. 4 games played, 2 games left on Friday night. I really thought. I even said it on Twitter last Wednesday night, and we're recording this on Thursday, but Wednesday I said out on Twitter on our picks through Tally site that I really expected Wednesday night's games to be super close. The big upset so far, in my opinion, has been Atlanta over Miami, and even Chicago a little bit over Toronto on Wednesday night, but I think you had picked Chicago to win that game.
I did.
Just some general thoughts. Quality of play, has it been fun as a basketball fan? What are you thinking through 4 games?
So I identify as a millennial in terms of my generation, but in terms of how I view sports in general, I'm kind of a traditionalist, and I feel like I fall into the old man game a little bit more. I lean towards, obviously, in the GOAT debate, I'm 100% in on Michael Jordan. I love some of the traditional views on just the game of basketball in general. So when they introduced the idea of the NBA play-in, I rolled my eyes. This is very much, everybody gets a participation trophy. Let's just try to give even more of these losers an opportunity to feel good about themselves, blah, 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 blah. And now, obviously, as a Thunder fan, being in the 10th seed and having an opportunity, I guess mindset changes a little bit, but it's still kind of like an empty win, I guess you could say, if you don't actually make it into the playoffs. But I will say, because of how close the 7 through 10 seeds are in standings, and because of how close the games have been so far, I think it adds an extra element of excitement in these early rounds of play that perhaps haven't always been there. So often the first round series are just blowouts, and fans kind of lose interest before the playoffs really even get started. And these playing games, they have been just absolutely thrilling. I only caught the end of the Chicago-Toronto game, but, Chicago's down by, I think it was 11 points with 11 and a half minutes left in the game. And then fast forward to just a couple minutes left in the game, and all of a sudden they flipped the script. They're on top, and they've created a bit of a run. And I love the story of DeMar DeRozan playing his former team, really coming up big. He had that monster dunk in the clutch. Just kind of adds to it. His daughter's in the stands cheering, and Toronto's just shooting terribly from the free throw line. When you add those extra storylines to it, especially, it just creates an element of drama that you don't necessarily have in some of those early rounds. So as far as quality of basketball, I mean, this is playoff basketball. This is as good as it gets. Defenses are turned up. The physicality is turned up. The stakes are as high as ever, especially for the 9-10 game, because it's win or go. It's a one-game win or go home opportunity. So to me, it's been absolutely thrilling. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope the playoffs can continue to carry the weight that these early games have brought in already.
Yeah, and you look at Oklahoma City, Minnesota Friday night. Winner gets Denver. Woo, but and we can get into that later on. But the reality is, it is something for Oklahoma City, even if it's just from an experience. You talk about the second youngest roster in the entire NBA. You got 2 games postseason experience, which is a crazy thing that none of these stats count for anything anywhere. They're just in a void. But the experience is something that they'll carry them in to the next season. What surprised you most about seeing Oklahoma City win in New Orleans on Wednesday night?
Well, I had them picked to win, and I didn't really understand the 5.5-point spread. I was expecting something a little bit closer. Obviously, I'll give New Orleans the nod, being at home. As far as just having home court advantage in the playoffs, it means so much more even than home court advantage in the regular season. But to me, I mean, they were a little bit more injured. They did have some solid role players, which I expected to do even more than they actually did. So I was happy to see that. But as far as surprises go, Josh Giddey, he rose to the occasion. This is his first real taste of postseason play, even though it doesn't technically count for anything. He stood out as a guy that, he gets the, you can call it a cheap shot, call it accidental, whatever, from Josh Richardson. He's an Oklahoma guy himself. That happens, and Josh Giddey, he kind of steps up like he's going to go after him. Now, I don't think that's a fight he wants any part of in a real situation. But I just think the fact that he popped up and showed a little extra, that shows that he's here for the moment and he's not going to back down. And it didn't slow him down at all. If anything, he just it fueled him to continue to make plays. And I'm a bit critical from a coaching perspective. I feel like I notice flaws in guys' games because I've been coaching basketball for a few years now, and I tend to be especially critical of bad defense. And Giddey's defense last night, it was very questionable. He got back cut multiple times. Lindy Waters barely played, and he got back cut so many times. So that was disappointing. But as bad as he was on defense at times, he was outstanding as really he kind of had to be the primary role because Shea was covered up so much. And he didn't play a flawless game, but he played so much better than I think most people would expect for a 20-year-old. A guy to come in with no postseason experience, still learning the game, learning his game, and still finding ways to improve. And he played about as well as I could have expected. I could have even dreamed of. And I think between that and Dort's hot shooting, that really paved the way to open up the opportunity for the win.
Yeah, and if you haven't noticed, I mean, do yourself a favor. Go back to that incident with Josh Giddey and Josh Richardson, and not right there on the floor, not right when it happens, but when they're reviewing the play, you go back to the huddles, and this is on Twitter. It's got to be on Twitter. You go back to the huddles. Josh Giddey's still in the huddle, mouthing across the court. But look at SGA's face. Have you seen that? Go back and pay attention. look at SGA because he's got this look on his face. It's kind of like a smirk, smile, like. And I don't know what's being said there, but he's looking at Josh Giddey, and it's one or two things. It's, hey, I like the fire that's coming out of you right now, or it's, listen, dude, you don't want that smoke. It's one of those two things.
I think it's a combo. I think it's probably like an older brother. Like, I'm proud to see my little brother stepping up to the moment. But come on, dude, let's keep things real. I think it's a mix. Because did you see what Josh was saying? He was saying, you know what you did, don't do that again. To me,
no, see, I thought he was saying, do it again. Try it again. I thought he was like challenging. Okay. That's what, and I'm a bad lip reader, but I thought he was saying, do it again. Like, see what happens.
Yeah, I thought he was saying, don't do it again, and I'm like,
maybe he was.
That's like the most passive aggressive trash talk. Like, don't you do that again? Like, again, I don't think Josh is going to go get in the thick of a fight, but I also don't think he's afraid of the fight.
Right.
So,
right.
And I can respect it. I can. He's not going to be an enforcer. That's not his role. But he's not going to back down from a challenge either. And I think that's something that people have questioned. Is he a guy that can handle getting roughed up? Is he a guy that can be physical, get into the thick of it? And just the way that his game is transformed this year with his ability to attack the basket, and he still has his mixture of driving physically and finishing with finesse. Mm-hmm. And again, he's not changing who he is. He's just adding an element to his game, and I think that's just opening up his potential even more so down the road.
Yeah, for sure. But do yourself a favor. Go back and just watch that exchange, but look at SGA's face. That's what you want to look at. Okay, so Oklahoma City's moving to Minnesota now for Friday night against the Timberwolves. Give me something that you're confident in going into that game. Because if you look at the season trends don't really favor Oklahoma in this, but you look at you look at what the Thunder did. You're coming off of a game where you mentioned 5.5 point underdog. I think they're a 5.5 point dog again on Friday night. I'm looking at that real fast. Yeah. You got to have some confidence. So tell me where it's coming from.
So you mentioned the season trends. First off, the Timberwolves, they won the season series 3-1. And some people are leaning on that like that means something. And I'll just be honest, I think that means absolutely nothing. All four of those games were played in the first half of the season, just the first couple months. I don't think any of those four games featured the lineups that we're going to see. And if you look at Oklahoma City in the playoffs, their past three trips, their first round opponent, the season series, has meant absolutely nothing. We go back to 2018, the Thunder had defeated Utah 3-1 in the regular season. Didn't matter. Utah won the series. They had beaten Portland the following season 4-0 in the season series. Didn't matter. Portland won 4-1. You go to the bubble. Oklahoma City had beaten Houston 2-1 in the regular season series. Didn't matter. Houston won. So regular season series doesn't really matter a whole lot to me. Obviously, there's some concerns with season trends in terms of rebounding. I think that's going to be the biggest concern is Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. But I'm actually glad Rudy's coming back. I think that the Timberwolves are better without him. I think what I'm confident in is the drama that Minnesota has is the antithesis of what Oklahoma City is in the camaraderie and the teamwork. They genuinely like each other and they play well together, whereas Minnesota's still trying to figure things out. They have the right makeup in terms of the roles that guys play and the star power and everything in that, but they don't have the chemistry at all. It seems like they're literally one more mouthy remark away from just completely falling apart. Mm-hmm. And I do think I absolutely think Minnesota is plenty good enough to, fake it through at least one more game, pull it together, and absolutely wipe Oklahoma City if they can control the boards. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that the Thunder can use the fact that I saw it worded this way today. Oklahoma City's playing with house money. They don't really care. Like, they have nothing to lose. I think absolutely Thunder fans want to win this game. I think every single player on that team is going to play as hard as they have all season long. They want to win this game. I think Mark Daigneault would like to see us win this game. But as far as what it means for the future, this game is really nothing outside of more experience. So as far as win-loss, it's not going to dictate what happens next. It's just going to be, an extra chapter to this already Cinderella story of a season I feel like we've had. So because there's not a whole lot of pressure to just go out and prove something, I think the pressure is off of the Thunder, and it's definitely all on Minnesota. And I think Timberwolves fans feel that. I think they would have rather have played Dallas because of the drama that's going on with the Mavericks
Right.
now. At least then they can match drama for drama. The Thunder play so free, they play with so much energy, and because of just that lack of pressure, I feel like they have a good opportunity to go in and provide another upset. It's not going to be easy, but that door is open for sure.
Okay, so we're going to do something called True or False. This is a regular thing that we do on the Center Nation podcast, even though this is a Thunder edition. So that means you, as the Thunder guy, you get to answer these questions. Basically, I throw out a statement, and you're going to tell me whether it's true or whether it's false, and then you got to tell me why it is that way. Okay. So I'm going to set a couple of these up for you, but let's go back to Wednesday night, late in the game. Thunder are up by 4. Brandon Ingram drains a 3-point shot that just looked like it had no business going in, but he drains it. Brandon Ingram's calling for the foul, says he was hit on the elbow. True or false, Brandon Ingram had a legit argument for the N1 on that 3-point shot?
I say false. I saw the replay, and at first glance, I didn't see contact. The announcer even said Dort avoided the foul. I'll be honest, I didn't go back and look at it 1,000 times like I'm sure New Orleans Pelicans fans have. I've not seen the last 2-minute report at all, but I can pull it up pretty quickly because I frequent that website regularly throughout the season just to see how it goes. But I didn't see it, so I absolutely think it's his job to go through and make the argument. Now, I'm looking at it right now. It says there was a correct no call. Dort contests the jump shot attempt and avoids making contact with Ingram's arm. So I think Ingram was doing everything he could to earn the call for his team, but to me, it wasn't there. And based on the way the calls were going, Pelicans fans had no business complaining about calls. And I'm just going to leave it at that because we won, and I don't want to complain anymore about it.
All right, so here we go. Number 2, you go into this play-in tournament and you think, man, this is just good experience. It shows improvement. The team's getting better as the whole, the tanking is over with and so forth, all right? So that was the mindset going into Wednesday night. Now that the Thunder have won and Oklahoma City travels to Minnesota, now the Thunder have, true or false, the Thunder have crossed the threshold from this is getting good experience to it'll be disappointing if they don't make the playoffs.
I'm in a mixed bag here. I think true, it will be disappointing just because to see what they're capable of, it's like we're on the cusp of greatness. But at the same time, like I said, we're playing with house money. It's hard to look at the body of work of this season and say, well, I'm disappointed in the result. If you go back to preseason, especially when Chet Holmgren was injured, ruled out for the season, I just chalked it up to, okay, we're tanking one more year. That's fine. I can be patient, and then we'll start being good. If you had told me in preseason that next season we were where we're at right now, I would have been disappointed because I would have wanted an actual playoff position. But the fact that we're where we're at right now, all I can think ahead is we're going to be playing at home next year in games 1 and game 2 of the first round of a playoff series. It's hard for me to think anything less than that. So win or lose, I'm sure I have high expectations, so I'm sure I'll find a way to be disappointed if we lose. But in general, if I'm honest with myself, you got to be happy with the way the season's gone, regardless of the outcome of Friday's game.
All right, so here we go then. Let's stick with the Wednesday night game. You had the outstanding performances by both SGA and Josh Giddey. We've talked about them. True or false, we're not talking enough about Lou Dort, and especially the first quarter.
We talking about his offensive performance?
Right.
I think Dort, at least on Twitter, he received all of the credit that he deserves and all the praise that he deserves. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure he ranked in the bottom 5 of volume 3-point shooters in the entire league. He's not been great shooting the ball at all. So the fact that he came out and torched like he did deserves a ton of praise. I pray to God he doesn't come out and try to put up those kinds of shots again. Now, my rule of thumb is with a shooter like Dort, shoot one. If it goes in, shoot another one. If that one goes in, you have the freedom to kind of just pick at that point. But if you're shooting 1 or 2 early and they're not falling, it's time to figure something else out because now you've made yourself vulnerable to the defense and they figured you out and you're not a threat anymore. And you're probably inside your own head and you're a detriment to the team. I go back to, and again, I can be hypercritical as just a coaching mindset, but Dort had a heat check late in the game where it was transition He comes down, throws up a three, and he bricks it hard left of the rim, off the backboard. And this was in a critical moment. Like, we needed a score. And he puts up that shot. And I'm like, dude, I don't care what you did in the first quarter. That's not the shot. And the thing is, part of that is that'll come along with experience. That's kind of he's still a young guy. It's so hard to think of him as being on, one of the youngest teams in NBA history, being one of the youngest guys in such a prominent role because he's been doing this for so long. But the fact is that was just a boneheaded shot, and I did not love it. I think he deserved a lot of praise, and I think he got a lot of praise. And I hope he continues to do that. But I think the area that he deserves the most praise is because of his defense. He absolutely roughed Ingram up. I guarantee you, he got away with some things, but in the crucial moments, I thought he played great defense. I thought he did it well without fouling, and I thought in the moments where he could have been called for a foul, he managed to somehow find a way to play without fouling, and those are the ones that really counted. So I think he received a fair amount of praise, and I'm happy with his performance. If he manages to duplicate it, great. But I'm definitely, if I had to bet on him hitting more than like 2 threes in Friday night's game, I'm not taking that. I would be blown away if he managed to shoot anywhere near as well as he did against the Pelicans.
All right, so here we go. Moving on. Yeah, you've already touched on this, so this is kind of a softball one for you. But Oklahoma City definitely has an advantage over Minnesota in terms of team chemistry.
Absolutely. I think the Wolves are one of the most, perhaps, I don't know if this is the right phrase, chemically imbalanced teams in the entire league. The fact that, I feel like it's prominent and public and obvious that Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert do not like each other. I've never been a fan of Gobert for so many reasons. He played for he played for the Jazz. I don't care for the Jazz. And he did the whole COVID-19 thing.
That's right. Forgot about
everybody
that.
Everybody kind of blames him for shutting down the league, and I think that's kind of an overreaction. It was going to happen regardless, but he kind of made a joke of it. He's made some light of situations over the seasons, and he's kind of done some dumb things. I think he probably thinks he's better than he actually is. He's kind of fit into a box as a player, and as a result of that, he's good at what he does, but he's not better than. I can name a handful of other guys I would take over him any day of the week, any matchup, any scenario, whatever. He's a great player, but he is kind of a bonehead. And I think he's added to so many problems that Minnesota, again, they're kind of young. Karl-Anthony Towns, he wants to be a leader. He's really not. If you listen to the way that he talks, he tries to sound like he's this wise veteran that's kind of helping his younger teammates along the way. But the fact of the matter is he's immature, and he's trying hard to be something that he's not. And I think that's kind of helps the imbalance of the chemistry so far this season, besides just the fact that he's been injured. So you throw all that together, and you've got a disgruntled group of individuals that it's kind of hard to tell if they even want to continue in the playoffs or if they're just ready to get to the offseason so some of them can go their separate ways. So I'm definitely taking the camaraderie of the Oklahoma City Thunder, the young guys, over whatever that is they've got going on in Minnesota. I don't know. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's just too cold up there and it's depressing, and that adds to the problems. But they've got more issues than they know what to deal with right now, and it's becoming an issue.
So who has more drama right now? This is just a sidecar here. Who has more drama? What's going on in Minnesota with Gobert and Kyle Anderson, or what's going on with Kyle Kuzma and Spencer Dinwiddie? I mean, who has more here?
I did not see what Dinwiddie's initial comments were. I just saw Kyle Kuzma's thread, and
no! So you don't know what Dinwiddie said?
I didn't see what started it. No.
So it was something along the lines. This is my understanding. Something along the lines of if you were a superstar, the Lakers would have kept you.
I don't like. Did Dinwiddie just come out of the blue to?
Well, there was some jawing that kind of started, but that's what set Kyle Kuzma off, was about the whole Lakers letting go and trading him off. And
first off, I loved Kyle Kuzma when he was with the Lakers. I thought he was a fantastic young player. I thought he didn't fit well with LeBron, and I thought that was more LeBron's issue than it was Kyle's issue, because LeBron's supposed to be the leader. He's supposed to be the guy that makes all his teammates better, and that wasn't really the case with Kyle Kuzma. So Kuzma became one of the many scapegoats that have been sent out of Los Angeles. Cough, Russell Westbrook, cough. And as a result, he ends up in Washington, which is kind of not the best organization for a while now. They've had a lot of issues. Even Bradley Beal, I think he's going to find a way out of there before long. But he's kind of quietly turned himself into a really, really solid NBA player. And I totally respect what he's doing. I like his game. Not a fan of his fashion choices. That stuff's kind of weird for me. But as far as his NBA game, he's done a really good job. So when he stepped up to the plate and kind of just went bullet point by bullet point and called out Spencer Dinwiddie, who I used to appreciate his first run with the Nets, he's kind of fallen off and I get he went through injury and he's not the same guy even that he was a few years ago. And so it weirds me out when guys who haven't really established themselves or haven't proven themselves as having done something then try to call out other guys who are really maybe at the same tier or even better, which I would take Kuzma over Dinwiddie right now. To me, that's a no-brainer. So that whole scenario is just super weird. I think that's kind of like off to the side drama. You know, Kuzma's not in the playoffs. Dinwiddie shouldn't even be messing with that stuff. He should be focused on his own series. And Kuzma was right. If it wasn't for what KD and Kyrie did before he got there, he wouldn't be playing in the playoffs. So there's that. But I think Minnesota's drama is so much worse because they made all these moves to be this prominent spot. And a lot of people were talking top 4 in the West. And I said, there's no way. When you look at that collection of guys, there's just too much drama. There's no leadership. And Mike Conley, he showed up way too late to have any type of real positive effect that's gonna help them through the season. So Minnesota, it's a tough situation, and I want to say I feel bad for Timberwolves fans, but I don't. I don't.
All right, here we go. Last one. True or false? As much fun as Wednesday night was in the anticipation of Friday night, it's still going to take winning a playoff series to get over the sting of 2 years of tanking.
Oh man, for some fans, I'll say true. I put a lot of our blog stuff on Thunder Facebook, and I'll just say that is one of the toughest crowds for me to even want to be a part of because there's so much wishy-washy. The Lou Gwentz Dort ride is so much like a roller coaster. You have people talking about how bad he is when he plays badly. You have people talking about how great he is when he plays well, and it's so mixed. So when it comes to just tanking, I absolutely would say that's true for a lot of people. Like some people aren't going to get over it until we're right in the thick of it. Perhaps even we might have to win a ring to satisfy some people. Like, oh, we went through all this and we don't even have a championship to show for it, which I still don't think the general public understands just how difficult it is to go win an NBA championship. If you look at the last 20-ish years, the handful of teams that have managed to do it and do it a number of times, it's not a long list. And so the fact that the Thunder is, I mean, 2 years of tanking is nothing. Look at the Kings. It's been almost 2 decades since they've made
20
the playoffs.
years of tanking, right?
So they haven't even been actively tanking. It's just been like the Israelites in the desert wandering, trying to figure out their way, and they finally managed to make it work. And kudos to them. I've never liked Sacramento because I was a Kobe fan back in the early 2000s. So
those Vlade Divac days, man. That was some fun. That was a fun series.
Those were some of the best. Mike Bibby, Doug Christie,
Vlade
Divac, Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic. That was the starting five. I'll never forget those 5. They were so tough, and but they haven't been good since then. So and I love Domantas Sabonis. He's one of my probably top 5 non-Thunder favorite players right now in the NBA. I love the guy. I wish we could get him back somehow. I think he would fit in with what we're doing so well, but I'm glad to see him flourishing. So that's super great. But I think in general, most Thunder fans are pretty happy with where we're at because they finally see, okay, this is what we've been waiting on. We're so young, and it's only going to be better from here. Because there's just no way that we fall off. We have to improve from here.
All right, we're going to run out of time here on the call. So let me just run something by you real fast. When you look at Friday night's game, To me, a big concern is rebounding. You had a 10 rebound disparity on Wednesday night. We're able to overcome that. But you've mentioned a lot. You've talked about Rudy Gobert. You talked about Karl Anthony Towns. To me, that whole scrub with the Timberwolves came down to a rebounding issue. I feel like Gobert is going to be super focused on rebounding. That bothers me moving into Friday night. What are your thoughts?
No, I absolutely agree. I saw something along the lines of Gobert's playing a little hurt, perhaps, and I don't make excuses or maybe not, whatever. When it comes down to it, we're at the point where every single game matters, and you would like to think that's the case in an 82-game series, but it's just not. It's so hard to stay focused on every single night in such a long season. Which again, I mentioned being traditionalist. I hope they do scale back the regular season, especially now if they're throwing in this mid-season tournament. And because I want the best players playing every single night. I hate seeing players resting. It's just that's not what the game's about. So I think that he is going to come in focused. Now, whether that translates on the in the box score, I don't know. But I think just based on length alone, the Timberwolves have that. That's one of their strengths. They're very tall, and that's going to play a part. I do think that the Thunder have the ability to make the adjustments to figure out what it takes to win the game, regardless of that. But I think if we have another start like Jonas Valanciunas had last night in the Pelicans game, then it could be a long night. We kind of figured him out a little bit and made some adjustments that still burned us in other ways. I think Dagnall has the ability to make some adjustments and really come in with a solid game plan. So as worried as I am about it, I do think that there's some things they can do to kind of neutralize what Minnesota can do and counteract that. So I'm interested to see just exactly how it's going to go.
All right, so real fast, let's do this. Let's run through this. You do a post every game at Heartland-Sports.com. Thunder against the spread. You break down the over under, the money line, and the point spread. The over under right now 227.5. What do you think? Over or under?
I actually took the under on this, and I think that mostly has to do with the fact that I think the Thunder is going to be a little tired. I do think they are a little beat up. Shots aren't necessarily going to fall as much. I think trying to slow the game down might be a good part of the game plan. And I think Minnesota, they struggled against the Lakers, and the Lakers are not a great defensive team. They haven't been. And I feel like if they struggle to score just over 100 points against the Lakers, I think the Thunder's youth might be something that, again, playoffs start, defense turns up, and I think that's going to be part of what we see in this game in particular, because I think both teams might be a little tired because they had to play that first play-in game. So I'm expecting the under, just barely, but I do think that'll be the case.
I'm opposite of you here. No trifecta for us. I got the over here. 5.5 point underdog for the Thunder. They were a 5.5 point underdog on the road Wednesday night. Same on Friday night. What do you think here?
I'm taking Oklahoma City to cover. I picked them to win as well.
Okay.
I do think it's going to be another extremely stressful, extremely close game. So really, as far as the spread goes, I feel like it should be Minnesota like -1, -2, maybe even a coin flip. I'm not confident in the Thunder winning. I am confident in them covering the spread because I do think this is going to be another one that comes down to that last final possession or two.
No, I 100% agree with you here. I got Oklahoma City covering the 5.5. Now, I'm opposite of you, though. I hope we can still be friends after this. I've got Minnesota, man. There's too many intangibles here with the young team, coming off from Wednesday to Thursday to play in Minnesota.
Right.
Look, as much as we bagged on Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, and justly so, Mike Conley, this is a veteran group. I think veteran groups kind of get savvy in the playoffs.
I agree with that.
So I've got Oklahoma City falling just short. I got somewhere around like 117 to 114 type game. We've got just a few seconds left, so I want to throw this out here because I think this is the key talking point moving forward. If Oklahoma City wins and moves into a 7-game series with the Nuggets, we talked about the physicality of pushing around Josh Giddey, pushing around SGA. Now, you don't have to be physical to be tough. I think those two guys both showed they're tough. You can't question that. But when you talk about the youth of Josh Giddey, you talk about SGA a little bit banged up coming down the stretch. Does that concern you over a 7-game series if it comes to that? That could they absorb that for 4, 5, 6, 7 games?
I absolutely think it's a concern. I think they can figure it out over the course of the series. I think best case scenario in that situation would be hopefully pushing it to 6 games. Part of that's because I want another playoff game in Oklahoma City,
Sure,
get an opportunity to go. But let's be real, 8 seeds don't beat 1 seeds very often. I think the only situation I can think of is the Warriors when they beat the Mavericks that year that Dirk won his MVP, which was a complete shocker. Baron Davis, you know, in a young Warriors team, different Warriors team, pulls out a crazy upset. So that's not what's going to happen. If that happened, then I don't know. I'm going to go out and buy a lotto ticket or something. But I do think the physicality. I don't think the Nuggets are a super physical team. They've got a few guys that are kind of, you know, like Aaron Gordon is kind of that guy. But most of their play, like Jokic, he's not a real physical guy unless he gets pushed in a way that he doesn't feel like is right. If you remember the Morris brother that he whiplashed. But so I'm not too concerned with them being as physical as New Orleans, even as physical as I believe Minnesota will be. So that might help a little bit. But over the course of the series, when you think about how long the season's been and how banged up some of these young guys probably are feeling, it's definitely going to play an impact.
All right, Zach. So you're every day, every game day, you got stuff, you got content, heartland-sports.com, but you're live tweeting games. You got other stuff that's going out on Twitter. Give us your Twitter handle so everybody can find you and follow.
Yeah, you can follow me at Zachary Low NBA. I'm not the ESPN guy, so make sure you're following the right one. But I'm all down for conversation, and I like to have fun watching the games and tweeting those as well. I'm a little more lighthearted than I used to be. I used to take it pretty seriously. I've tried to lighten up a little bit and enjoy it more. So,
yeah, age will do that to you, brother.
Absolutely.
Right. Zach, thanks so much, man. I appreciate your time, and man, best of luck to the Thunder on Friday night. Hopefully, we can come back and talk about a playoff series next week.
Absolutely, sounds good.
All right, see you, brother.
See you, man.